So I was going to say in America, but it's not. It's everywhere. I mean, I'm a kind of example of it. We have a situation where if you in any way criticize Israel, then the world comes down on you. And there's a reason for this, not just what Israel is doing now, but what it plans to do. And for it to happen, they have to shut down criticism and exposure. And if you look at the control of censorship on the internet, it comes back to Israel. You put the dots together and you see a very sinister picture. But you can't criticize Israel in any shape or form, especially, this is the important thing, never criticize Israel if what you're saying is true. That's the worst crime of all. So we've had this lady in America called Ilhan Omar, a new congresswoman, who was talking about the influence, and it is fundamental and utterly enormous, the influence of ultra-Zionist money in American politics. It owns American politics. That's anti-Semitic. No, it's frickin' true, provable fact. And now, because she's come out, and you know, I've been talking, especially since I was banned from Australia, that people keep telling me, and the system keeps telling me that I'm wrong, and then proves me right. So what's happened with Omar is she's come out and said this Zionist money is controlling and influencing American politics. In both parties, of course, control both parties, control the game. And so her party, now the Democrats, which is owned by Zionist money, along with the Democrats and Trump, who's completely owned by Israel, they've all come out as one to condemn her because what she said was right. And they're proving it right by all coming out in mutual condemnation. And it is absolutely pathetic to behold. Another story on the subject. Ilhan Omar says her refusal to pledge allegiance to Israel does not make her anti-Semitic. Well, of course it bloody doesn't. But that's how it's painted. You have to pledge allegiance to Israel. These ultra-Zionist groups running American politics demand that politicians pledge allegiance to Israel before they get any support or money. And because it's so outrageous, because it's so utterly blatant, transparent, and disgusting, they have no defense. So the last thing they want is an open debate, because an open debate would expose it all. So they shut the debate down. You're an anti-Semite, you're a Holocaust denier, and all this stuff. And what is that doing? It's exploiting those who suffered in places like Nazi Germany for a political agenda today. It doesn't get much more in the gutter than that. And the other major point that I've kind of been making a lot is that these ultra-Zionist hate groups, and that's what they are, trying to get people to hate their targets so that they are destroyed and silenced. These ultra-Zionist hate groups, which are actually controlled by a tiny, tiny cabal of people, which I call, well, one name I call them is ultra-Zionist, but there's another one, even more significant, which I'll talk about in the books, but it takes a bit of explanation. They set themselves up as the spokespeople for Jewish people, but they're not. They don't represent Jewish people at all. This one man and a dog organization in Australia, this anti defamation commission run by this guy Abramovich, as does not speak for the Jewish people of Australia at all. Just as these massively funded groups in America don't speak for Jewish people in America or anywhere else. It's like the Israeli government of the far-right psychopath Netanyahu doesn't speak for Jewish people. And we've had more confirmation of that this week. In an open letter, Jewish Americans come out in support of Ilhan Omar. American Jews, including prominent figures like Naomi Klein, have signed an open letter in support of Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. The letter states that she has been falsely accused of anti-Semitism and that there was nothing anti-Semitic about calling out the noxious role of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, in American politics. It went on to say that the pro-Israel lobby has played an outsized role in producing nearly unanimous congressional support for Israel, and slammed AIPAC and other lobby groups, including the National Rifle Association and the fossil fuel lobby, for its anti-democratic legislative influence on US politics. The letter finished by saying, "We thank Ilhan Omar for having the bravery to shake up the congressional taboo against criticizing Israel. As Jews with a long tradition of social justice and anti-racism, AIPAC does not represent us," and it called on other Jews to sign the letter. Omar has faced a huge backlash for calling out AIPAC, including facing accusation of anti-Semitism from both Democrats and Republicans, because they're owned by the same AIPAC network. Floor action against her by Nancy Pelosi when she was getting off her knees and put her tongue back, and disturbing posters at a Republican event linking her to the 9/11 attacks. I mean, these people are so disgusting, it's unbelievable. The charge of anti-Semitism comes after Omar said that the Republican Party's threats against her and Palestinian-American Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib for criticizing Israel was all about the Benjamins' baby, money in other words, in reference to money allegedly paid to the party and its members to support Tel Aviv. When she was asked to clarify who is paying members, she cited AIPAC, which has previously boasted its financial influence in US politics. What Jewish people in general need to start doing is doing what these Jewish people have done. Speak out against these people, because they're using you. They're exploiting you. They're using you as a shield to say that they represent you and what you think, which is clearly not the case, but also to use you as a shield to stop legitimate investigation and exposure of their agenda, which is horrific, by the way. That's anti-Semitic. Oh, shut up. Anyway, this is another example of it in France, because Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, who is owned by the Zionist lobby and the Rothschilds, just like Trump is, has come out and said anti-Zionism, criticism of Zionism must be equated with anti-Semitism. So you see the pattern here. You expand the definition of anti-Semitism so it stops criticism of what you're actually doing. Well, that'll be the day where I'm sitting. Anyway, people are starting to kick back against this because they've overcooked the pot. They've made what they're doing so obvious, and people are sick of it. And this is a headline: French resist effort to censor criticism of Zionism. There is a pushback in France against President Emmanuel Macron's speech to a major Israel lobby group. Oh yeah, he was on his knees with his tongue out, just like Pelosi, vowing to criminalize anti-Zionism. Can you imagine that? What is Zionism? It's a political philosophy which many Jewish people don't support. More than 400 intellectuals, artists and activists have signed an open letter to Macron that was published on the 28th of February in the national newspaper Liberation, or Liberation. Mr. President, it said, we are French citizens who respect the laws of the Republic, but if you adopt a law against anti-Zionism, or if you officially adopt an erroneous definition of anti-Semitism that permits outlawing it, like so many countries have, including Britain. Theresa May did it when she briefly got off her knees and put her tongue back in. Please know that we will break this law with our words, our writing, our art, and our acts of solidarity, the letter states. This is what is necessary to stop this scam of protecting people who should be legitimately investigated and exposed from that exposure by using Jewish people as a whole as a shield and exploiting them in that way. Jewish people as a whole, and everyone else, needs to stop bowing to this. And when they say you can't say this, say it bloody louder. And if you decide to pursue us, the letter says, to silence us, even to imprison us for that, well, you can come and get us. This is what we need to sort this world out. Not violent protest, just no longer acquiescing and cooperating with our own enslavement and the destruction of our own freedom of speech. Among the signatories are academics and educators, journalists, veteran journalists. Anti-Zionism is an opinion, a current of thought born among European Jews at the moment when Jewish nationalism was taking off. It opposes the Zionist ideology that advocated and still advocates the installation of the world Jews in Palestine. Today, the letter adds. And it notes that the essential argument of anti-Zionism is that Palestine was never an empty territory that a people without land are free to colonize based on a divine promise, but a country populated with real inhabitants for whom Zionism would soon become a synonym for exodus, desperation, and negation of all their rights. During his speech to a major Jewish communal organization and pro-Israel group, the French equivalent of AIPAC, it's called CRIF, Macron claimed anti-Zionism is one of the modern forms of anti-Semitism and pledged that France would formally adopt the so-called IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. This is this big, expanded version, specifically worded to stop criticism of Israel and the ultra-Zionist extremists. Because Macron's owned by them, so why wouldn't he push this definition? And of course it was done in Britain, and the Labour Party, we represent the working class, Labour Party, have adopted this definition. God, it's pathetic. Supported by the liberal, Israel lobby, anything but liberal, the definition deliberately conflates criticism of Israel and Zionism on the one hand and hatred of Jews with the other. This is the dynamic. This is how they've connected the two, totally erroneously and totally disingenuously, as they well know, to protect themselves from legitimate criticism by using the rest of the Jewish population as their shield. We need to come together, the Jewish population being exploited by these people and the rest of the world population. We need to come together and say we're not having it. And the story goes on to further explain what this letter talked about. And fantastic, I say. Bloody fantastic. About time.
Every single event that we've done anywhere in the world, there's been certain groups that have contacted venues, made outrageous libelous claims about what David's going to speak about, and have in many cases got venues to cancel on us.
They tell the organisers that I'm going to go on the stage and I'm going to say a stream of racist things, none of which I have ever said, none of which am I ever going to say. What then happens, staggeringly, is that instead of coming to you and saying, well, these people have said you're going to say this, you're going to say that, what's going on? They pull the event. And we hear about the event we've been organising for months being cancelled. We hear about it in the media.
In Germany alone, for example, I've been in touch with over 70 venues, and we've still never managed to pull off a Germany show. And there's a venue that we had in Berlin, which to this day, nigh on well over a year, have never actually contacted me to tell me the event's been cancelled. I found out from a German newspaper when they published a story about it.
And my website is blocked in schools and universities and colleges. It's blocked in government departments and government agencies. And here's me, one person, who was supposed to be this great nutter, and the system is desperate to silence what I'm putting out and to stop as many people as possible ever hearing it. Why?